there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Regina and this video is all about beets. Not growing them, actually. This video is about what to do with the beets after you harvest them. If you've seen my recent beet harvest video, then you know that I harvested 16 pounds of beets from 16 square feet in my garden. Now, I plan to do better with succession planting in the fall, but it's pretty tricky to do it in the spring here with how erratic our spring weather is and then how quickly it gets really hot. So I ended up planting all my beets at the same time because of that reason. And because of that, I harvested them all at the same time. Now, in that last video, I showed you how I harvested them and how I prepped them to go into the refrigerator and the freezer. Now, I want to show you 3 different meals that you can make starring and featuring this healthy and delicious vegetable. Now, before we get into the details and the content of this video, please go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button to help this video and this channel get out to more gardeners. I'd really appreciate it. Now, let's get into it.
One of my absolute favorite ways to eat beets is in a smoothie. And in the smoothie, I use both the greens and the actual beetroot. So as you can see, I'm filling up my cup here. Then I'm going to add several pieces of the beetroot to my smoothie. And then next, in my smoothies, I almost always use an orange, a little mandarin or a cutie, because they add that level of sweetness that no matter what other fruits and veggies I add, it always comes out perfectly. And they also add a lot of liquid, a lot of juice to make everything blend together nicely. Sometimes I add a little water at this stage, sometimes I don't. So I put in 2 oranges. It should be fine. It should be liquid enough. I love the rich color that the beets add to the smoothie. And my blender here, this is a Ninja, so it's actually not a very expensive blender. It's pretty inexpensive, but it's very powerful. I've had it for several years, and it has worked great for me. And then to this day's smoothie, I'm adding just some berries. It's a frozen bag of berries that I purchased at Target. Sometimes I add bananas, fresh bananas that I just put in the freezer to freeze. But any other fruit, it just depends on what kind of mood I'm in. And today's smoothie was all about beet greens and berries. So once the smoothie's done, then it's time to eat. So yeah, that's all I do is grab myself a smoothie straw. I have some reusable ones that I can wash and use again so that I'm not constantly purchasing straws. And delicious, full of vitamins and tasty. My kids like these too. The next way that we're going to use the beets is in a salad, starting with some fresh strawberries that were picked from my garden, and then onto a pear, not from my garden, but delicious nonetheless. And then we're going to add our fresh beetroots. For the salad, I'm using some of the other ones, not the red ones, just to add some different colors. I already have red in the strawberries. Now, beets are sweet, and paired with kind of that sweetness of the fruit, it's really nice. Also, I did chop these up smaller than I had originally chopped them up, just to make for a better bite in the salad. Then I'm adding some fresh mint from the garden. It really brings out that flavor in the fruit. And then fresh harvested lettuce, also from the garden, Paris Island and Grand Rapids, because that's what I have. And now I'm adding some beet greens because they just pack a little more of a nutritional punch than lettuce. But mixed in with the fruit and the beets, it just has a really, really nice flavor. So yes, I am mixing this with my hands, but remember, 1, they're clean, 2, it's my salad. I'm the one eating it, so don't come for me. Next, we're going to add the dressing. I am using a balsamic vinaigrette just because that vinegar, that acid taste with the sweetness of the fruit just goes really, really well together. And then I'm topping it with toasted almonds for a little fat and protein to make the salad a little more filling. And of course, toasted almonds are delicious. 50% of the time that I don't burn them, and so I'll add them to anything. But they also give it a nice additional crunch texture. And now we have a perfect bite with all of the components on it. And believe me, this salad was delicious. I ate the entire bowl. Now I did a few bites in, add a little sprinkle of salt. That's what it needed to really set it off. So I wanted to show you guys that I added that. And this is me about 5 minutes later. The last beets recipe that we're going to talk about today is herb roasted beets and potatoes and sauteed beet greens. So we're going to start with russet potatoes that I'm going to peel by magic, and then I'm going to also chop them also with magic. See what I did there? And now I'm going to add in the beets using all the different types of beets that I grew. It just adds some really nice color to the dish, and also not all the beets taste exactly the same, so it adds a variety of flavors as well. Now I like to have the beets with the potatoes, mainly for my kids. It adds something that I know they'll like with the beets that they don't eat nearly as much. Now I'm adding herbs straight from the garden. I have garlic greens, green onions, fresh parsley, fresh oregano, fresh rosemary, and purple basil and Genovese basil. So I chopped all of those up, and I'm going to add them with my potatoes, and I'm also going to add some classic olive oil to this. The olive oil is great because it adds a little fat, and we know where there's fat, there's flavor, and it also helps the potatoes and the beets to brown really nicely. Next up, we're going to add salt. Of course, gotta have salt. Adding some pepper as well. Gonna add some dehydrated bell pepper. This is from last year's garden. And then garlic powder and onion powder. Mix all of that up nicely so that all the potatoes and the beets are coated with the herbs, the seasonings, and the oil. And then I'm actually going to put these into the air fryer. The air fryer does a really great job of roasting and kind of giving them that crispy texture and those fluffy insides. So I know that's going to be great with those potatoes and beets. And I'm going to roast them at 300 or roast/air fry at 385 degrees for 15 minutes. And I have an Instant Pot air fryer. I'll put a link to it in the description. And so now they're ready. Now to step these up just a little bit, because we have those garlic and herbs, I'm adding a little bit of Parmesan to this. And once I do that, I'm gonna put these back into the air fryer for another 3 or 4 minutes. It doesn't take long for it to heat up and to kind of give that cheese that nice crispy texture that you want from a Parmesan. And there they go. And these were a huge hit with my kids and with my husband and me. And now for the beet greens. I'm starting with a little bit of olive oil in the pan. And now I'm adding the beet greens. So this is about half of a 1 quart bag and then a full 1 quart bag. So a quart bag and a half full of beet greens. Because remember, beets do cook down quite a bit. Not as much as spinach, but definitely more than like kale. So this panful is going to cook down. So I'm adding salt. And pepper. And that's it. Keeping it simple because I had so many herbs with the roasted potatoes, and then they're done because my counter is also a stove. Or maybe I moved it to the stove and moved it back with editing magic. Either way, that's what they look like, and they were delicious. Now you may want to serve the greens, add a squeeze of lemon juice. That acid really cuts kind of that little bit of bitterness on the greens and makes it perfect.
Thank you for sticking around to the end of this video. I hope you found the content helpful and that the meals I showed you gave you some ideas for what to do with the beets you're already growing or the beets that you're considering growing in the future. My Amazon links for the Nutrininja blender and the air fryer that I used in the video are below. So if you're in the market for either of those items, please go ahead and check those out. Thanks again, and go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button to help this video and channel get out to more gardeners. And until I see you guys again, have a great one. Bye.